Good. This is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1991, Tafshin Nun Aleph, on Shabbat Parshat Shalach, which that's going to be next week's Torah portion, this week's Torah portion, actually. That's what we're going to read on the coming Shabbat in the synagogue. Okay, as we've learned before, we talked about before, here it is. This Torah portion is read, okay, 1 second, yeah. That's right, next Shabbat is also going to be Shabbat Mavorchim, very good. This week's Torah portion talks about the spies that Moses sent in spies. The Haftorah that we'll see, maybe we'll also learn about this later, but the Haftorah of this week's Torah portion also talks about another episode in Jewish history where spies were sent. Spies were sent. One was that. This week's Torah portion talks about the beginning. Just 1 year after the Jews left Egypt, they sent these spies to scout out the land of Israel, and it was a tremendous failure. But the spies came back and they said, we can't go into Israel, and they discouraged all the Jewish people. And later on, 40 years later, 39 years later, right before the Jews are going to Egypt, into Israel, Joshua did the same thing. But he didn't send 12 spies. He sent 2 spies. And his expedition did not fail. It succeeded. It succeeded. And because of those spies that Joshua sent, the Jewish people went in and conquered the land of Israel. Conquered the land of Israel. And just a small innuendo, I want to just say that we see from here the Jewish people are conquerors, right? They conquered the land of Israel. They didn't. So if you look in the Shulchan, in the Chumash, in the Bible, so right at the beginning of the Bible, there's a famous commentator by the name of Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki called Rashi. And he immediately says, why did the Torah have to begin with the creation of the world? Just let it, the Torah is a religious book. Let it start off with the commandments. God gave commandments. The Jewish people were in Egypt, and God started giving them commandments over there. So start out with the commandments. What do we care about how God created the world? Write another book about that. The Torah is a book about telling the Jewish people how to act Jewish, what the commandments are. And what do we care if the God created the world in 7 days, 4 days, 8 days? So Rashi says over there, because the day is going to come when the world is going to say, Jews, you're thieves. You stole the land of Israel. Right? Look at Rashi over there. Rashi was like, what, 900 years ago? Something like that. The day is going to come when the whole world is going to say, Jews, you stole the land of Israel. You conquered the land of Israel. You stole it. And you say to them, you're right. We conquered the land of Israel, but we didn't steal it. The whole world belongs to God. God gives the land to whoever he wants to. In the beginning, God gave to the non-Jews. Non-Jews lived here. And with his will, they're staying here. And now, with God's will, we took it from them and we're living here. That's all. God promised it to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're just taking what God promised us. That's what we're supposed to say to the non-Jews. The whole world belongs to God. That's what we're supposed to say. The whole world belongs to God. God gives whatever he wants to whoever he wants to. The land of Israel, he gave to the Jews, temporarily put the non-Jews there. Now he's putting the Jews there. That's it. It's God's business. You have problems, take it to God. I'm just doing what God says. If you can convince me that that's not what God said, then no problem. No problem. Then you got a good claim. The United Nations are right. Right? But let's see you start. Let's see what you do. So the point of the matter is that the whole world belongs to God. That's the point. Right? And the world has to, first of all, admit that God exists and that God cares and that God gave the land to the Jews, picked the Jews, gave them the land. but he did. Okay, so here we got this old story, right? The Jewish people were in Egypt. They were born in Egypt. They started off with troubles. They were born in captivity, a whole nation born in captivity without no sin. They didn't do anything wrong. What did they do wrong? They were born in captivity. It wasn't some sort of a sin that they did. They didn't even exist outside, right? There was this Yaakov and his sons. They didn't do anything wrong. And now they're all slaves. So they're in slaves. God takes them out, amazing miracles, take them all out. And he decimates all of Egypt, and he splits the sea, and he gives the Jews the Torah at Mount Sinai. And now he says, okay, Jews, let's go into the land of Israel. Here we go. This is it. This is the culmination. You're going to go to the land of Israel, and the world is going to be a perfect place. A perfect place. And the Jews say, no, we don't want to do it. We don't want to. And that's our story here. That's our story. Ready? Let's go. Dover Kamapamim, we spoke many times about the Chalukah, how the Torah portions are divided up into portions of the week. Sha'av Shabakal Shabbat, even though that every Shabbat we read another Torah portion, which is relevant, which is relevant, not just to finishing the Torah. So we don't want to do the whole thing at one time. So we divide it up and then make it easier. Not just that, it's also relevant to the time that we're in. Ubakal Yom, and every single day from the days of the week, we learn another portion of the week which is relevant to this day. Nevertheless, all sections of the Torah and all parts of the Torah are also connected to the whole entire Torah, from Bereshit Le'enei Kol Yisrael. So from any one point of the Torah, you can learn something which is relevant to all the Torah and to all of life. Like it says, the Torah is one Torah. Kamo Parsha Echad. It's like one big Torah reading, one big section. Shekol Chelek Shabo, that every portion of the Torah, it says divided into 53 sections, that each portion is divided Kashur Ima Parsha Kula. And that also, so every individual portion of the Torah is connected to the whole Torah, and also every detail in every weekly portion is connected to every aspect of that week. Kamudrash Akriya, the Shabbos, for instance, what we're reading on the Shabbos, which that's like the sum total of the days of the week, then we read the whole entire Torah portion from the beginning to the end. Each day we read another one of the seven. Each Torah portion is divided into seven. And on Shabbat, we read all seven. Okay, this is especially in this week's Torah portion, Shlach. Parsha Shlach is mostly dealing with one topic: the spies, the scouts. It begins with Moses sending these scouts. That's the very beginning, until the second reading of the, like I said, it's divided into seven readings. So the first is talking about how Moses sent the scouts. Then after that, it talks about how the scouts went into Israel, how they walked around and surveyed the place. Then after that, it talks about how they returned and they told the Jewish people what they saw. They wandered around, it says, in Israel for 40 days, and they came back and told the Jewish people what they saw. And all of the repercussions which came from this, until God got angry and he punished the Jews. That's the first four sections. Then after that, it talks about the Nesachim, with every offering you make, that there has to be wine libations. Ki tavo el ha'oretz. It says, when you come to the land of Israel, and you make a sacrifice from God, you have to bring wine offering. You have to, there's a special place that would pour wine on a special funnel. In other words, even though that the Jewish people sinned repeatedly, they sinned with the golden calf, and then God forgave them. Now they sinned again with this refusing to go into the land of Israel. It says, nevertheless, God let them know that he's going to forgive them. He'll let them go into the land of Israel. But really, the whole thing is one long story with a lot of sentences. and a lot of details, which in Kadei in order to know what is this whole topic and the whole story, you can't just learn one little portion, but you have to learn the whole entire topic from the beginning to the end, until it's all finished. And in this is stressed that all of the portions, all of the details are really just one long topic. Okay, so in other words, this week's Torah portion really deals with one topic, but it deals with all sorts of different facets and aspects and views of what happened, how Moses chose the people and how they went and how they traveled and how they surveyed and how they came back and what they said and how the people reacted and how Moses reacted and then how the people reacted to that and then how God reacted to what they said and how they reacted to what God said and etc. And then finally God announced to them that they're going to go into the land of Israel. Don't worry about it. There's going to be sacrifices until the final end of it is tzitzit, right? We talked about that. Mitzvah prati, that if tzitzit, the commandment of tzitzit, remember we talked about that, the corners, the strings on the corners of your garments, right? There we go. That even though that it's just one of the 248 commandments, or one of the 248 positive commandments, altogether there's 613 commandments if you count the prohibitions also, it's only one of the 613 commandments. But nevertheless, it says that tzitzit are equal to all the other commandments. How are tzitzit equal to all the other commandments? Because it says in this last paragraph, it says, you will see it, you'll look at the tzitzit, at the commandment, or at the blue strand, and you will remember all the commandments of God. How are you going to remind all the commandments of God? Because it ends up that the tzitzit remind us of the number 613, the 613 commandments. How did tzitzit remind us of the number 613? Because the word tzitzit is the numerical value of 600. Where do we get the 13 from? Let's see, where do we get the 600 from? Tzaddik is 90, Yud is 10, so that's 100. Tzaddik, Yud again is 90 and 10, that's another 100, so we got 200. And Tav is 400, so we got 600. And the 8 strings and the 5 knots. See here, look at this. See, the tzitzis over here. Here are the tzitzis. Here we got 8 strings. See, look. See, am I doing this properly? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, there's 8 strings and there's 5 knots. If you look at the knots here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 knots. So you get the 8 strings and the 5 knots, that's 15. So because it's 600 and it's 8 and 8 and 5 is 13. So we got the 600, which is tzitzis, and 13 strings and knots, and that comes at 613. So it says you look at them and remember all of them. The number 613. So it says the number of the word tzitzis is 600, and with the 8 strings and the 5 knots, this comes out to be 613. It is similar in the Torah. That every section of the Torah is connected to everything and all of the other sections of the Torah. Since the Torah is one Torah, so it says if you look at the tzitzit, which is just one commandment, it'll remind you of all the commandments. So it is really in every detail of the Torah. Every detail of the Torah contains the whole entire Torah itself, everything else. Okay. So we have to understand, since that all of the details of the Torah, they are very exact. So it's logical to say, Hadgashat inyan achdut, that if you want to stress the idea of the unity of oneness in the Torah, and Parsha Shlach it must be somehow or other connected to the topic of this Torah portion. Here in this week's Torah portion, we have the commandment of tzitzit, which tzitzit is a commandment which clearly contains all of the other commandments. This hints at that everything in the Torah contains everything else in the Torah. Where is this demonstrated? In this week's Torah portion, which is terrible. It talks about the spies and how the Jewish people refused to go into the land of Israel. Of all the Torah portions to choose, to stress unity, why choose this week's Torah portion that talks about disunity, about the argument of the Jews against God and against Moses? They refused to go into Israel. So what is the connection then between tzitzit, which is unity, and this week's Torah portion that specifically here God chose to put the commandment of tzitzit, which is unity, in this week's Torah portion, which is division? And number two, what is the connection between that and the time when we're reading this Torah portion, right at the end of the month of Sivan? Right, this is going to be the last Shabbat, technically, in the month of Sivan. Okay, everything is connected, and we can learn something from everything, especially from the Torah. So what can we learn? First of all, we have to understand. So that's our question. Now we have to make a few preparations to answer this question. First of all, let's understand, what is this idea that Moses sent the spies? Whether in this week's Torah portion, and also, like I began the class, in the Haftorah, that also talks about sending spies, and that's talking about how Joshua sent 2 spies. The Supar is talking about that Joshua, Yehoshua, he also sent spies. It says, and he did it because he learned from Moses what to do. Moses sent the spies and it didn't work, but he learned from Moses that it was a good idea to send spies. Good, the first time it didn't work, so okay, try again. He tried again, and when he sent it, worked out. So it says, one second, if he wanted to learn from Moses what to do, so why didn't he do exactly like Moses? It says there were several things where he changed from what Moses did. It says, okay, what? There are a couple of changes that Joshua made, sending his spies, than what Moses did. Number one, the spies that Moses sent, it says, Shlach Lacha. It says Moses sent spies from his own decision. God said, Shlach Lacha, you send them. God said to Moses, Ani eini mitzav lecha, I'm not commanding you to do it. If you want to, send. Which is not the case, the spies, the scouts that Joshua sent out. But certainly, says the Rebbe, Joshua would not have done it on his own. God must have commanded him to do it. If he did it, it must be that God commanded him to do it. Moving like it's understood, simply, and also we don't really have to even explain that after Moses sent out the spies and it didn't work, and it was a tremendous tragedy because Moses sent it on his own, so we're sure that Joshua wouldn't make that same mistake in the same way. Joshua wouldn't have sent them out on his own. Therefore, we have to say that God must have commanded him. No, it doesn't. By Joshua, you look over there, that's in the book of Joshua. It doesn't say that God commanded him to do it. God spoke to Joshua on other occasions. It doesn't say that God commanded him. But the Rebbe said it must be that God commanded him, because first of all, it doesn't say that God told him, do it on your own, whatever you want to. It must be that Joshua for sure would not have done it on his own. He wouldn't have done it. Even Moses didn't want to do it on his own. Moses asked God, and God gave him permission to choose. So for sure, Joshua would not have done it if God wouldn't have given him the okay. And so God told him to do it. And if God just said, okay, whatever you want, do, he also wouldn't have done it, because he saw that God gave Moses just the permission to do it, and it came out of tragedy. So it must be that God commanded Joshua to do it. One change. Number two change. In Moses, it says send anashim, people. Send people. It doesn't say send spies. And that they should scout out the land of Israel. Scout out, it says viaturu, means that they should survey. It doesn't say v'yach peru, v'yiraglu. It doesn't say they should spy out the land. By Moses, it just said they should survey the land, go around and, like you go for a trip and take pictures. And they weren't spies. In Joshua, it says, anashim meraglim, that you should send spies, lachpor et ha'oretz, and that they should undermine the land. Lachpor et kol eretz bo, says we came in order to undermine, to reveal secrets. So by Moses, it wasn't to reveal secrets. Moses just sent the spies out to see how good the land is. Right? Tell us a few details. But Joshua, no, he sent it with a different purpose. He sent it in order to conquer. We're going to see in a minute. And so he sent spies that they should find out what the secrets of the land. They should find the weak points. Another difference. The spies of Moses, it says, by Moses, it said that each tribe, there were 12 tribes, right? Each tribe should send a chosen person, 12 people. Levi didn't send, but to make up for Levi is Joseph was divided into two, Ephraim and Manasseh, so they were divided. But the Meraglim that Joshua sent, it says Joshua just sent 2 people, not 12. Another difference, we're going to have how many differences? We're going to have 6 differences. Another difference, so we have 3 differences so far. What are the differences? The first one is Moses did it from his own volition, and Joshua was commanded by God. Second one, Moses sent out people, his scouts were just to survey the land, and Joshua sent them to spy out, to be spies. Number 3, Moses sent 12, 1 for each tribe, and Joshua only sent 2. Those are the first 3. We have 3 more. Number 4, the spies that Moses sent out were special high people. Nesiei Yisrael, Roshe B'nai Yisrael Hemo. They were the heads of the tribes, and these are the names. But the spies that Joshua sent out, he just sent 2 people, and it doesn't even say who they were. Who are these 2 people? Right? It doesn't say what their names are, and it doesn't say what their qualities are, who they are, right? The more that they sent. Number 5, the spies that Moses sent out, the scouts that Moses sent out, was in a way that was advertised. Advertised to everybody. The Jewish people knew. The Jewish people knew that they were sending them out. When they came back, excuse me, when it came back, it says that they came back and they brought word back to the Jewish people. It was well known, advertised. And also regarding to the people in Israel, the inhabitants of Canaan, the spies, they did not try to conceal themselves in order that they shouldn't be felt, their presence. And even more, each and every one of them went alone to spy out, to survey his own part in the land of Israel. I'm sorry, no. They didn't try to conceal themselves by means of this, that they spread out so that they wouldn't be seen in a group. Right? You figure they go one at a time. Each one could go and see his own area. That's why he sent out 12, because the land of Israel was going to be divided into 12 tribes. And so each one was going to see he was the representative of his tribe, to see the area of Manasseh, of Reuven, of Gad. So scatter, then they wouldn't be so noticeable. No, the spies that Moses sent, they always stayed together. Holcham kulam yachad, they all stayed together in a way that everyone could see. Ad shehayata tzorich, that God had to make a miracle that people wouldn't notice them. It says every place that they went, they found that people were occupied in funerals. Kedei letardam ba'avelot, so that the Canaanites would be occupied in their mourning, and they wouldn't notice these Jews going in a big group together, which is not the case. The spies that Joshua sent out. Joshua sent them, he says, Moraglim Cherish. He sent them in secret. Whether the Jewish people didn't know that they were being sent out. Beseiter Shalcham, he sent them out in secret. He didn't want the Jewish people to know that he was sending out spies. Therefore, when he came back, it says, Vayavo El Yoshua. They just came, the two spies that Joshua sent, they came back only to Joshua. And they told Joshua the whole story. They didn't tell all the Jewish people, like the spies of Moses. And also regarding the people in the land of Israel, that they said to them, make yourselves like Charashim, Kadesh lo yastiru divreim mipaneim. And also the dwellers of the land of Israel, it says also, they said, those people who did see, he said, please don't tell anybody about it. I don't want anyone to know. That's what it means. Cheres, make yourselves like says there was Rachav, whatever. She saw. They said, disguise yourself like they put them inside of pots or whatever, so that they would seem to be like they weren't people. They camouflage themselves. Until the car, they had to hide so that the people wouldn't see him. Like it says, it says that Rachav took these two spies and she hid them away. And she said to them, hurry, please, maybe the people will see you. Don't. And finally, maybe the main one was that the spies that Moses sent, they surveyed the whole entire land of Israel. The whole land. Okay, so this one was that the spies that Moses sent was with great the advertisement, and everyone knew about it. And the spies that Moses sent didn't try to conceal themselves even from the Canaanites, which is not the case. That Joshua, no one knew they were sent, and the people, and they were told to camouflage themselves and to hide themselves so that no one would notice they were there. And finally, the spies of Moses, they surveyed the whole entire land. Arba meot parsa. It says 400, whatever it is, miles or something, on 400 miles. And it took them 40 days to do it. But the spies of Joshua, excuse me, even though that they were commanded to go and see the whole entire land and Jericho, not just Jericho alone, but nevertheless, lozu bilvad shenichnasu liyericho bilvad, not only did they only survey Jericho, below shar chelkei aretz, they didn't go anywhere else except for Jericho. Ela odzos, but even more, shafilu at Jericho, even Jericho itself, lo yispiku l'tor, they didn't even spy out the city of Jericho. Because on that night that they came to the house of Rachav was the the woman whose house they hid in. Is haridatam Rachav ba'arach alone, that she let them from the window that was in the wall of the city. So the city of Jericho had a big wall around it, and that wall, the outside part of the wall, was like the border of Canaan. So it ended up that they only entered just a little bit into the border. They just got into her house. They only got into a little bit past the border. And she immediately hid them up on the roof, and she let them down on a rope. And they left the Hara, and then they ran away to some mountain, and they hid there for 3 days until those who pursued them went back into Jericho. But Takif, immediately they went to Joshua. And that was their whole shlichus. So the spies that Moses sent, they spied out the whole entire land of Israel. And the spies that Joshua sent, he sent them in quiet, and they were concealed. And they didn't even survey the whole land, the whole city of Jericho. And they were there for a very short amount of time, and they ran away. Nevertheless, we consider their job was completed and successful, and the spies of Moses was a terrible failure. Okay, what's the difference? Let's see. The main point of this is that the spies that Moses and Joshua sent had different goals, but they have one. I'm sorry, no. There were different methods. They did different things, but their general goal was the same: conquering the land of Israel. And so in a short way, and we'll stop over here, there's two reasons to send scouts. One reason is to send scouts in order to conquer the land. Spies, right? Spies, traitors, whatever you want to call it. When you come to the land of Israel, or when you come to the land, to the land to conquer it, so it's very, very important that you have spies. You have to have spies from the inside that tell you a little bit about what's waiting for you over there and how to conquer. You have to know where the cities are, where the towns are. Therefore, when they come back, they go to they don't want anybody to know, because there's spies also in your country. So they go to the, how do you say, to the chief of staff, the head of the army, and they let him know all these secrets that you saw, because their whole purpose is to conquer. That we're going to see is what Joshua did. Joshua sent in two people, and their goal was to undermine and to conquer the land of Canaan, to find out where the weak points are, to find out where the strong points are. Everything has to be a top secret. It was forbidden for anyone to know that they were there. The land of the spies that Moses sent, though, they were not so much to conquer the land of Israel. They were promised by God they were going to conquer it. Their whole thing was just to know, when they went into the land of Israel, to prepare themselves how to settle there, that they should know and recognize the good of the land and the details of the land, and how good it is, how fertile the land is, to like an advertisement, to encourage them to do a thing that they already know is good, but to give them more encouragement. That was why Moses sent the 12. Why did the 12 that Moses sent fail? Why did the 2 that Joshua sent succeed? And even more, the 2 that Joshua sent seemingly did not succeed at all. Joshua said that they should survey the whole land of Israel, and they didn't. They just got up to the edge of the first city, and then they left. And that was a big success. And Moses, they surveyed the whole entire place with all the details. They brought back fruit and everything, and it was a tremendous failure. Why, and what does this have to teach us? We're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow.